and we're in the Tennessee Tower, Tennessee Room 1. I'm going to go ahead and let's start with our prayer first. Mr. Lindsay.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We ask that you guide us, protect us in advance with safe travels to and from. Lord, I pray, I thank you for every board member, everyone that's attending, person in on live stream. It's better than what we were yesterday.
And at this time, recognize all board members that are here. There are none participating virtually. And then let's begin roll call. Start with
Frank here.
Montel Lindsay here.
And is here.
Mr. Murtaugh, Chair here. We do have a physical quorum present. The meeting can continue. Has anybody had an opportunity to review the meeting's minutes? Go ahead and approve those.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Minutes from the previous meeting last month, May 16, 2024, are approved. We're going to start today discussing Westlaw LexisNexis access for at least myself and our executive director, Mr. Stahl. Anybody want to open that discussion? I'll start the discussion. So the reason that I had brought this up to Mr. Stahl is because, one, when we first went to that TDOC training, they dropped some cases in front of us, right? They dropped case law, and that's why they do what they do, or they follow these particular guidelines. And for me, I want to pull those cases and I want to make sure it's still good law, right? I want to make sure that it's still current. I want to know. I have a curiosity. I want to make sure that whatever we're doing is still in line with what the courts have decided. Then also, I want the ability to research any issues that have come to the courts. If we've talked about that we're messing with like maybe some constitutional issues or civil liberties, and if something has happened, another board somewhere else has made a mistake, right? And something has gone to court, I want to be able to read about that. I want to know how the courts decided so that we can avoid those same mistakes. So we don't make those same things where we end up having to defend ourselves in a courtroom, right? Not just to the General Assembly or to Joe Public, but in a court of law. I don't want to do that. I mean, I guess we do a cost benefit analysis, and I would prefer LexisNexis. It seems like Westlaw's a little bit cheaper, so I can deal with whatever, but yeah, we need to do a cost benefit to say, is being able to do this research worth X amount of dollars? Does anybody else have any opinion?
So I have a couple of questions. It's my understanding that we have been generously offered assistance from the AG with our legal research or legal questions. And
right.
because the AG's office already has that kind of access, then to my way of thinking, rather than indebt the board into a contract, either 1, 2, or 3 years at a monthly rate, when that same availability would be available without a cost to the board through whoever is doing that. Now, I recognize at some point we may obtain general counsel. And I'm certainly not opposing revisiting the issue. But I think given the arrangement with the AG's office, which doesn't cost us anything for now, and maybe revisit this at another time when it may become necessary.
And I'll just say that the arrangement with the AG's office is exactly that. We have access to their attorneys. We wouldn't have access to their specific subscriptions. So we would have to ask specific questions and rely on them to do the research for us. And as long as we're comfortable that they've done it and done it well and done it correctly. So it really would just be a matter of us wanting to do our own research. That would be the benefit. So that's really where the only benefit comes in.
Well, and in terms of doing our own research, I think at some point we're going to get down to discussing defined roles and duties for board members and for chairperson and for executive director, et cetera, et cetera. But as I said, I understand from the statute, we have the ability to hire general counsel, either as Mike Dunn has suggested in previous meetings that we look at a 120-day person and hire that person versus taking on a full-time salary, because we still don't yet know what our entire workload will look like. And so I guess my reservation is to be signing on to contracts, multi-year or even single-year contracts, when we have some options. But as I said, I'm perfectly open to the notion that circumstances change, and in a month or two, we may look at it differently, but I've said enough.
I would agree to table it, but my question is, we do officially have access to the AG's office. Like, you could just call up there and ask a question.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a liaison within the AG's office who's assigned to boards generally, including our board,
Okay.
that we can email or call with any questions we have. Just we wouldn't have access to their subscription service.
Correct, right. And it's a matter of let them do the research or we do the research, right? And then also, where are we at on getting another AG? Are we going to do that?
They're not going to assign us a particular person. They have reorganized the AG's office to where they have a new division that is assigned to boards and councils across the state. I have the contact information for the person who is assigned to our board. Previously, the Attorney General's office wasn't structured that way. And so now that they've structured it within, they've created a division that is assigned to the different boards and councils. That division generally is the liaison and the contact for the different boards and councils, including ours. So we have a contact person that, and if we need someone to attend a meeting or do something in particular for us, then that person will be provided to us. But it's not going to be the same arrangement that it was when I was this board's liaison and connected as closely as I was pre.
Who is that person?
Her name is Catherine Baker.
All right, then I'll make a motion to table unless and until the need arises at some point.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion is passed. Moving on, facility touring update. Mr. Dunn, if you can start us off with the Northeast facility.
Yes, ma'am. As we previously discussed in meetings, we discussed the idea of visiting different facilities, getting all the board familiar with the different prisons across the state and how the prison manages itself and the functions and the day-to-day routines, and how the inmates are housed and the disciplinary board's activities, things like that at the facility. I did contact Warden Eller of the Northeast Correctional Complex in Mountain City, Tennessee. He would be delighted for us to visit at any time we wanted. And just to give him a heads up of the date, I also mentioned the idea of us conducting a public meeting while we are there, and he is absolutely open to that idea. And he said they would be completely hospitable to whatever we needed as far as the public meeting. And his own words, he said, that's not a problem at all. So I mentioned just as a scenario, I said, we've been typically holding our public meetings the second Wednesday of every month. I said, would the second Wednesday of next month be open? He goes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's up to the board if they would like to make a journey to the Northeast Correctional Complex to begin our state tour for you to see how a prison is laid out, the logistics, the functions, and meet the warden and the staff. Begin at Northeast to do it. We have that option open for next month and to actually conduct a public meeting while we're there.
That's great, thank you. While we're discussing that, because it sounds like that's a really good option, right? It's pretty quick, but still a month away, right? So we could all plan for it, but just for sake of discussion, those that live in West Tennessee or maybe even Central, that would be a 2-night stay. So we would be up the day before the visit and you would have to stay the day of the visit. Most likely, because that's a long drive and the state doesn't like us driving that far, that late, right? So just be prepared for that. If you're traveling, it's probably going to be a 3-day for you. Keeping that in mind.
My question, do we have to have the meeting at the facility? Like, could we do that separately?
I mean, we could do it separately. Like, do you mean go visit the facility like 1 week and then do our public meeting another week?
I mean, is there an advantage? Because it seems like logistically that makes more problems than it's worth.
Well, if we do it separately, then
It's 2 trips, I know.
it's
but-
2 trips. Yeah, I mean,
And I guess not everybody has to tour or not everybody has to attend the meeting live. Look, if you choose to do one, not the other, but I don't know. That's just my thought because most of the state could probably at most spend 1 night there otherwise, like Middle and East Tennessee obviously could get to Northwest facility there and back. I know y'all couldn't, but I mean, you and maybe Terry. I don't know. That's just my thought. I'm not necessarily opposed. It just seems like logistically it's more trouble.
right. Okay, so if
Or
I'm
hotel rooms or
understanding you correct, well, okay, let me see if I'm understanding you, then if we do the site visit, with the public meeting, it almost creates a requirement to go versus an option.
Right.
Right. So splitting the two up, you don't have to tour, but you could still make the public meeting.
Good point. And also it basically requires all of us to be there 2 nights, I would think. If we're doing like a tour one day, a meeting one day.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how we time it, but
Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say so he's open to us doing this whenever, is what it sounds like. I mean, it
Yes, sir.
doesn't have to be this month,
Correct.
but he wants us to come up there. Is there, I was thinking more like, is there another prison? If we were trying to make them, are we gonna try to do like a double or a triple and then maybe still have the meeting here in Nashville?
We,
Where everybody comes for the open meeting and we're using this more as tours? And would he have the capability, let's say if Vanessa couldn't make that trip, could she? Because if we have a quorum there, she could still come on and vote and conduct business from Memphis. Do they have that kind of capability?
absolutely, they hold,
Okay,
board hearings there,
Okay.
for the, parole board.
yeah.
Monthly, well, not monthly, but some of the meetings are monthly.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
look
they do
forward
have
to
the
going up
technology.
there. I just didn't know if there was, so that's up in Johnson City, way up.
It's further
in
east than Johnson City.
Virginia.
Yes, sir. It's Mountain City. It's literally on the Virginia border.
And then coming back this way, where's the next closest? Is it Morgan
Yeah, Morgan
County?
County Correction Complex.
Okay,
in
that's where I'm
Woodward.
at.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I was just throwing that out there because I know Jerry talked about when we got out west, they're four all pretty close together
Sure.
along the Mississippi.
And I'd like to add to the points of holding a meeting while we're at a facility, and no matter where, whether we're northwest or northeast, or maybe Riverbend someday. We're killing two birds with one stone. We're making the most of our time, and we're offering the opportunity to people who aren't maybe able to drive to a meeting here in Middle Tennessee. They can attend in East Tennessee or in West Tennessee while we're on site. Just gives an option for the public there if they'd like.
I just wanted to mention to Betsy's point about it being 2 days, if members end up staying the night before, so driving up the day before and staying the night before, we can do the public meeting earlier. Like we could start the public meeting at 8 and, do it from like 8, 9, 10 to 11 maybe, and then do a tour in the afternoon. So we may be able to do it in one day if everybody comes the night before, and then they'll have to stay that next night. So it'll still be a 2-night stay, but you could drive up the day before, stay that night, knock it all out in one day, and then drive back the next day. Just logistically.
And just to maybe ask or throw it out, this would allow staff at Northeast to also appear at our public meeting.
Absolutely.
So since everybody's here, can we kind of maybe get a feel of who could do? Can you give me the date? I don't have my planner calendar open. Can you give me the
If we
dates?
did the Wednesday,
The second
second
Wednesday.
Wednesday in July, it'd be July 10th.
So July 9, 10, and 11. Right? 9 and 11 are travel days. 10 is public meeting and tour. That would be your max. Some of you may be able to drive up and drive back the same day. Some of you only need to spend one night. But if I'm asking everybody, 9, 10, 11 of July, is there anybody that absolutely cannot make it? And I'm just asking to make sure we have a physical quorum.
So repeat what you said about 9 would be a travel day.
9 would be a travel day.
Mhm.
10 would be the day of the public meeting and tour. And 11 would be the final travel day. That's if you need to travel. If you can leave really early in the morning on the 10th and get back home really late on the 10th and you're okay with that, then you don't need the 9th and the 11th. But I'm asking 9, 10, 11, if there's, if you absolutely cannot make those days, I just want to get a feeling, because if there is a quorum, that will be, okay, so Mr. Lindsay's out. So as long as we have a physical quorum, then we can have some virtual participants for the public meeting. And that's why I'm asking.
I might have a problem with it, but even if I do, I might be able to come for one night, like maybe, like I'd like to do both, but like maybe just stay for the meeting and leave. It just depends. I have to check.
I'm available any of those days, but I don't count to the quorum. So.
I'm there. That's no problem.
I'm there. Mike Dunn is there. Dr. Carpos is there. Okay, so that's quorum. That's quorum. And then if you can make the public meeting and go, I mean, then that's even better, right?
I mean, I might be able to do the whole thing.
Right. I mean, and really for quorum, we just need you there for the public meeting, but we have quorum. So do we want to further discuss what we would do there? Do we want to, does anybody have a motion? What do we want to do?
I'm sorry.
Do we need to vote? Or, I mean, if we have a quorum and that's the consensus, but, or I'll make a motion.
I'll just make the motion and open it for discussion after the second, if it's approved, that we conduct our site visit at Northeast Correctional Complex on the 10th of July. Travel the day before, the day after if needed for all members, and conduct the public meeting statutorily required while we're at Northeast with the permission of Warden Eller of Northeast Correctional Complex.
Okay, motion on the floor is visiting Northeast Complex on the 10th, traveling 9th and 11th, also conducting our public meeting on the 10th, debate and discuss. If there's no debate and discuss, is anybody second? Okay, go ahead, Lee.
Discuss. So for me, I'm trying to think, well, for Mary, what is it from your place? 5 hours? So it's 5 or 6 for you. So we drive up, are we gonna have the public meeting first? And then we take a tour and then I could drive home? I
guess that would be pending the schedule of the warden
it
and his
depends.
staff.
But
And
we're
if-
gonna do them on that one day,
Correct.
either before or after.
That would be my recommendation, but I'll talk with the warden and see what we can do and setting up the virtual aspect to it and their spacing and the staff timing and all that. So I think, not to get too granular, but yeah, I mean, that's generally the plan is to knock it all out in one day. Now, whether we do one first or the other second, I'll have
Okay.
to talk with the warden and get specifics on that. But I think that would be best for everybody so it doesn't turn into a 3-day, 4-day long session.
How long would a tour last? Like, I know we don't know exactly, but roughly like 3 hours?
Sure, if that, it depends on what you want to see.
Okay.
It's not the biggest prison, but they have everything that every other prison does, minus the death row. But we could give a list ahead of time of things we'd like to see while we're there. And they can have a tour guide set up ahead of time and however it's easiest for everybody, I imagine.
The other thing I would mention is for anyone who's virtual, you can send me what you'd like to know or questions you'd like to ask, and we'll make sure we get that to the people. If you can't make the tour portion of it, if you get me your thoughts prior to that, we'll make sure that stuff gets touched on and we get all that back to you. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem if you can attend for, that portion of it. But if you let us know ahead of time, I'll make sure that you get all the information that you'd like to have as well. So my point is, I think we could figure out the logistics if you all do want to do that.
So Quantel wasn't, you're a maybe. Is everybody else good? So we will have physical quorum? Okay. I was gonna say, if not, would this be something that we went to the AG and like somebody couldn't come at the last minute, but we still want to have a meeting? Is that, you see my
Yeah,
point?
I can't, someone's got to turn their.
Oh.
Because there can only be 4 on at the same time. There were only 3 on? We could, but it's unlikely that it would get approved because there's not a need to
Okay.
conduct a meeting lacking a quorum. So we could ask for that exception, or we could just not take any votes at the public meeting. We could just say we're going to conduct a meeting, discuss, but we're not going to vote on anything if we don't have a quorum. But if we have a meeting that votes are conducted and quorum is not present, and quorum could have been present, or the meeting could have been moved so that a physical quorum was present, I anticipate that would probably be the response from the Attorney General.
Will, the board on this tour, will the board be speaking to only the staff and the warden? Like, what's the flow of it? Like, just staff, warden, no inmates, no,
If I have a say or a influence in it, I'd like to open the possibility of the board members speaking to inmates at every site we visit, because you're going to catch a different culture, a different temperature for every facility, and maybe there's things they want known or want to communicate. And it gives us the opportunity to introduce who we really are, what we really do, what our focus is. And from my experience, what I've studied, there's no secrets in a prison, so word's going to travel fast once we get a word out, you know.
Well, I'm just gonna renew my previous statement of I want to do all the things. What can we not do? That's the question. What can we not do? Right? So, yeah, I wanted whatever we can do there. That's what I want to do there. Right? So no boundaries, no fences. And I'm sure that Mr. Stahl can figure all that out.
Yeah, I
with the
mean,
board.
once we know that we'd like to do this, I will reach out to the leadership and get all of the details that we need, and then we can convene again about specifics.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go through that process and have them go through that process if it's not something we're gonna do anyway. But I think we'll be able to do more than less. You know,
Okay.
I doubt. I don't know exactly where the limits will be or what will be available to us, but if we decide that we want to do this, and now keep in mind, this is the first one. So there'll be some learning here as well. But you know, once we know that this is something we'd like to do, I can take some parts of this next month and with Mike, and we will, you know, relay all of the expectations to the warden and the staff about what we'd like and how we'd like it to be and what we think we'll need and all that, get some feedback and then bring that to the group. But I do think the first step would be deciding that this is something we want to do. This is going to be the test bed on this date, and then we can start getting more specific answers. But I think to the last 2 points, I mean, I think we'll be able to specifically talk to maybe some inmates,
Mhm.
not just staff, basically. But, and then I think we'll ask them for everything. I don't want to speak for them yet, though, about what may be limited and what may not be.
Yeah. Why I ask that, because have a blueprint, so to speak, for when we go to prisons. We know that we speak to staff, we speak to the warden, we speak to the inmates, and have this, so to speak, be the litmus test and debate and discuss what's the best for everyone that's traveling 3 days. What are we going to do? I mean, if it's just to see, I think we have virtual tours if we're just going to see the facility. So it's like, this board member wants to speak to the warden. I love what Mike Dunn said, feeling the culture. And you understand the culture just by talking to people and just discussing. So I figured this first run could be us kind of building our blueprint of how we tour. So when we go to not just Northeast, but when we go to Bledsoe, we speak to the warden, we do staff, we hold public meeting, we tour around, we talk to inmates, we come back and we dialogue. So I was just trying to get a feel of, like I said, this is our first one, but trying to build the way we tour prisons and these institutions.
And I would like to echo that. I definitely think that's a perfect way to think about this. And just one of the elements that I want to speak openly and say, I personally would like to see this definitely on the list, that we talk to their D board. And understand Northeast D board, and that's an absolute got to on our list of things to do is talk to their D board. And then to the point of, if, God forbid, for some reason we didn't have quorum and couldn't vote, but we could still have the meeting. Maybe that would be a great opportunity. As Mike said earlier, this is so far away that it's unlikely people would be able to drive into Nashville, whether they're staff or members of the community or offender families, whomever. This positions us so that even if we're not voting on anything, we could use our public meeting as a listening time for that area of Tennessee. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and amend the motion to include discussing the particulars of the trip in a private meeting. But going ahead and voting on those are the dates, that's the facility. And we're touring and having a public meeting.
I'd second that, and we can certainly a week before on the 3rd, after we've discussed a couple things with administration up there, then finalize our plans in the agenda setting meeting. Like you said, second.
Is there any debate and discuss on the amendment? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. The motion to conduct public meeting and tour at the Northeast facility on July 10th with July 9th and July 11th as travel days, with the particulars of the visit to be discussed after conversation with administration in a private meeting. Okay, next on the agenda, website discussion. Are we including biographical information? I think this is just something we need to decide. It really doesn't seem that important, but for me, it's for continuity. Like, do we all need to have one? Do none of us have one? Or is it okay that some have one and some don't? Right? I think that's really just the question, because we all have opinions on whether we're okay with having our biographical information on the website. Everybody's got that opinion. But when we pull up a website, if I pull up a board and 2 people have the bios and 4 people don't, or the opposite, I'm thinking, well, did they fail to turn theirs in, or like, what's going on? Like, I don't know anything about that guy. So I feel like for that purpose, we need to decide, is it an all or nothing, or okay that some have it and some don't? And you could probably guess, I'm not for the some have it, some don't. It's either an all or nothing. Right.
Look, what does that make us look like? The little face where you're not on camera? And it's like, some of us are like that, and then you get pictures of Mary and me or whatever. It's like, is this board, does it make us look unprofessional maybe? Yeah, I understand your point.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. I agree.
I don't understand, Lee. Why did you say Mary?
No, I was just using you as an example. You and I had our pictures in our bio, but the other 5 didn't.
I haven't seen your bio. Have you seen mine?
No.
He's speaking hypothetically, Dr.
Hypothetically,
Carpos.
Mary. No,
okay.
I'm saying that there are some that do and some that don't. Does it make us look unprofessional? It could be me and Jerry. I was just picking you
Okay.
because I was looking at you.
I just misunderstood.
Oh,
I didn't know
yeah,
what you
no.
were saying. Thank you.
I'll just say it's not a big deal. I'm continuing to build out the website. And so I just want to get everyone's thoughts on that. I mean, this is something I'd like to get your thoughts on. I plan on putting the minutes on the website. Just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with that. I'd like to put a link to the YouTube page that we'll have for the videos so that people can view those if everyone's comfortable with that. And then I just want to get everyone's ideas about what else they'd like on the website. I'm going to put statutes that are relevant to what we do. I'm going to put the events that of what we do, our policies and procedures once those get developed. But I just want everyone to be thinking about the website generally, because as I continue to build it out, I'm happy to take in your thoughts or, take things down, put things up, whatever. So I don't want to put any pressure on everybody to maybe come up with an answer right now, but those are the types of things that if you let me know your thoughts on them, I can bring them to the group so that everyone's comfortable with the basically the look of the website. I mean, it's not a big, none of this is a big deal.
Right.
But I just thought that I'll do the biographical information. So just wanted to make sure everyone's comfortable with that before I went ahead and did that.
Well, for some of us, and I understand that people might have a social media presence. Mine is not very big. There's certainly not biographical information on any of my social media. For me, having already received letters at my home, which now I don't live at, only my 21-year-old daughter lives at, I would prefer to not. So it is a big deal. It's not a big deal, put it out. Well, for me, it's a little bit more serious. I don't want my biographical information on there. I have dealt with inmates that are incarcerated that have access to you, right? And some are fine and some are not. And so I would like for that to not be readily available on the state website. We asked for our addresses and our phone numbers to be taken off, right? So why are we putting the information back up, right? So like, I don't understand. So for me, it is a big deal. I don't want biographical information. And if we're okay with voting that it's some can do it and some cannot, I'm going to be in the not.
So if I remember correctly, Mike Stahl had suggested that we look at the Opioid Abatement Council About Me bios. And so when I'm speaking about bios, I'm referring to the examples that are on the Opioid Abatement Council bios. And those bios don't say anything about where somebody lives or whether they have children or nothing like that. It's your basic qualifications. What's your education? What's your background? These are not unusual things for state employees to put forth with regard to why they do what they do, why you're the fit to do what it is that you do. So I looked at the Opioid Abatement Council bios and used that as a template. I think all, or maybe just most, had a snapshot. Some were lengthier than others, depending upon whatever related to the Opioid Abatement Council. But from my point of view, the general public at most has seen a news channel who made reference to some of us who had been at that time appointed to the board. And the board itself has not had any opportunity to identify its appointed members other than that news channel identifying some of us. And given the authority and the expectations of doing what's included in the statute, I don't have any hesitation in providing some sort of information to the public about the ability to do the work. But I would not say that I think everybody has to say or do exactly the same thing. I think it should be individual comfort. It's the Secretary of State's website that posts presumably information about our location, that type of information. And Mike has kindly addressed with them how to de-identify some of that information for the purpose of protection. But in looking at what, is this opioid abatement? up
Yeah,
here?
I just pulled it up quickly. I mean,
Mhm.
I use the opioid abatement as a
Right.
example, but there's also the Sports Wagering Council. Any of the boards
Exactly.
you can go to
Yeah.
and, but this is just an example
This
from
is
one
typical.
biography that anyone would write. I mean,
This is also abatement. This is opioid. It has nothing to do, I mean, inmates are a little different.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, turn on your mic and say that again, Lee, because I completely agree with you.
This is just opioid or the betting board. I mean, that's not really, you're not going to find enemies or people that want to find you. I don't know. I think that's your concern.
I think,
So, yeah, I mean, it's a different animal.
I think the first thing we do or make a motion is decide, are we doing this consistently? Like, we need to vote as a board. Do we want us all to do it or no one to do it? And then I think we need to vote, are we doing it or not?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Betsy. That's the discussion on the floor. So I'm going to move that it is everybody does it or nobody does it policy for that consistency down the website, just to address the same concerns that Lee brought up and that I have of looking slightly unprofessional, that if we're allowed to have a choice, we're going to have some with a bio and some without a bio, and it's just not going to look professional. So my motion is for all or nothing.
From Dunn and Quantel and Jerry. I mean, they certainly have I mean, could we do it with just our picture and Lee Frank? And that's it? I mean, that's pretty simple.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Lee Frank, board member.
Or just a list of I don't know. I mean, I'm asking you guys as well. Quantel, Mike?
I second that motion. No, open for discussion. And with that, I would say, we could be real general. We could have a name, picture, and a general background, not specific. Law enforcement, government service, public, benevolence work, nonprofit. Uh, as specific as you want to be or as general as you want to be, but at least something is there to give the public a flavor of what that person's background has been.
I feel if we're gonna do it as a board, we would be best off if we do it as an entire board, that it would be general information, basically Jerry Bassbinder, Western Division appointee, Governor Lee, Vanessa Murtaugh, Western Division appointee, Lieutenant Governor, and not put any as far as our home addresses, and most people can Google that, but I think if we're gonna do it, we just need to do it general and just a general background. If you wanna put former law enforcement, former district attorney, former whatever, just picture brief statement.
Okay, for clarity, we start off saying general and then we start adding. So I just want to know, like, it's like, no, he's not the only person. I'm like, okay, we're going to go general, Quantel Lindsay appointed by government, and then you can add father to three, the doctrine. I'm like, well, that's not general. We're going into bio. So, what I would say, being a person that has received mail at my personal home, being contacted at my personal home, hearing stories from board members, I do lean more on less is more in this scenario. To board member Lee saying, we're not dealing with people that in treatment centers. We're dealing with inmates that may or may not be happy about our votes and approval. So I would lean with the board of being general. Now I just need clarity on how general.
Okay, I'm going to withdraw my motion. And now I'm going to move that we all do what Mr. Bassbinder just suggested. So board member, chair, vice chair, right? So Mike Dunn, vice chair, East Middle, Grand Division, appointed by Speaker Cameron Sexton, right? And leave it at that. And everybody gets that same description, so they know what division you're from, they know who appointed you, and they know what position you hold within the board, right? So if you're vice chair, your chair, your board member, I'm gonna put an and in there, Mr. Lindsay, like maybe subcommittee chair, right? Your subcommittee chair, just whatever your titles are within the board. Nothing, no information from outside of the board, if that makes sense. So that's my motion. It was a little long, sorry.
Can I ask for one point of clarification, including a picture?
Yes, pictures included. Yes. So I am all for, like, put a picture, because the pictures are already on the state website. Are they not? I mean, aren't they somewhere floating around? Maybe.
All this stuff is floating around.
It's all floating
Like,
around
I mean,
somewhere.
I
Right?
mean,
Yeah. I love
Don't think that we're gonna protect your identity because like you didn't put it on our website. I
No.
mean,
The
this
stock
stuff's
photo
out
that was used in the news article was when I was in private practice in family law way back. So it's fine. Yes. So photo, name, division, title, and we stop it there.
So if I could just offer this, and I certainly understand and appreciate what you're saying. If you stop it there, then everyone will Google you. And they're going to take everything they Google about you. And that's going to be how they understand you as a board member. When I think about the about us and the bio, it isn't about where you live, how many kids you have. It's not about any of that. The bio, traditionally speaking, speaks to what it is that you're here about. For instance, our chair lady worked in the district attorney's office. She has a background in the district attorney's office. So too does Ms. Wiseman. Sheriff, retired sheriff, Jerry Vassbinder, comes to the board with the perspective of a retired sheriff. Providing each board member the opportunity to say to whoever in the public who clicks on this board and says, who are these board members? You can either decide how you, in a few sentences, want to convey that to the public, or you can leave them up to Google about you. My preference would be, not that that would stop them from Googling about you, my preference would be that apart from who you were, your name, your picture, who you were appointed by, something more, because every single person on this board brings their perspective given their professional experiences. And providing a flavor of that professional experience as part of what you're telling the public, I think would build public confidence in what it is that we go and do from this moment forward. Because if they simply Google, that may not draw them to a conclusion of why you should be trusted to do the business of this board. So to me, I see the bio as an opportunity to state in aggregate the abilities and capacity of this board to do the work that the statute authorizes this board to do. And I didn't see it as something that would veer off into personal areas, that it would strictly be professional bio.
So the motion on the floor, just to remind everybody, was photo, name, division, title within the board. Did anybody second that motion? No. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So I guess now we may open it to debate and discuss. Does anybody outside of Dr. Carpos have an opinion on adding more to it or leaving it as that?
I'm not wild about the picture either. Because then, as Mary said, Dr. Carpos, then when they Google you, then they know, oh, this is the Vanessa Murtaugh, because I pulled up her picture. So if we're going to be really general, I would almost prefer not to have a picture. My 2 cents, but.
I would also add that we can keep it general, and just, again, reiterate just a simple description of our background to reiterate add to what Mary said, without getting specific on where and when, just the type of occupations that or experience that we had, so it does not give the appearance, not, let me break what I said. So in addition to them Googling it on a separate wing, it doesn't give the appearance, oh, it's just a political appointment. They're just taking care of their buddies uptown. Oh, wait, they are qualified to be there because this is listed under not only their appointment, but they have this background. And that's probably why they were chosen.
Who would have thought that this would be the hardest thing we do today? That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I'll amend my motion. No photo. Any second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any debate and discuss on my motion, amended motion of name, division, title, and who you were appointed by?
And that would cap
That's
right
my
there.
motion. Yeah, that's
So
that's
that's-
it. That would cap it. There would be nothing else because again, and I'll open up debate and discuss back to Mr. Frank's previous comment. If I don't feel comfortable putting on there that I was a prosecutor, which that is my criminal law. I was also a criminal defense attorney, so I did both sides of the aisle.
They know now.
I don't feel comfortable putting that on there, and you put that you're a retired da 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 da. Now we have that unprofessional, like, well, what did she do? Right? Like they're gonna ask, well, he's this, but she didn't do anything, right? And so it doesn't quite balance it. Not everybody sits balanced, and so again, I'll go back to the all or nothing. We're either all gonna put the same thing, or we're all gonna put nothing. Right? Like, because, and if we can't agree on what we're going to put in a bio, it's just going to be a list of names at some
I
point,
understand.
right?
And one of the first things that'll come up in a search is LinkedIn. And you can
I
get
don't have
detailed as you
one.
want to on LinkedIn.
I don't have a LinkedIn.
So
Oh, I do, but I don't think there's any information in it. I might have created it so I could look at other people's LinkedIn, but I don't have, yeah, I'm
So
not
you're
one
one
of
of the
those. Yeah,
Googlers.
everything is private. All of my, I just feel free to Google me. Yes, there are articles about me and there have been, the DA's office has done things, my universities have done things. I've received it. It's all in there. Google me. It's all great things. I don't have anything negative in my Google search, but again, I'm not going to voluntarily give you information. If you care enough to Google me, like you're going to Google me anyway to see what else you're going to find. If you're Googling me in the first place, you're going to Google me no matter what, right? That's my opinion. And I'm just not going to offer any information just because. So, yeah, again, the motion on the floor is now no photo. Okay with that. No photo, name, division, who you were appointed by, and any title that you hold within the board.
I'll
Is-
second.
So, well, it was already second. I just reminded everybody. Is there any more debate and discuss? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion to put name, division, who you were appointed by, and any titles held within the board has passed. And Dr. Carpos, there could always be some time in the future where we decide, once we get comfortable within these positions, maybe we don't feel as secretive or like we want to, you know, box people out, we can always revisit this in 6 months and see how we feel.
Can I make just a question on clarification for board title? Do we want to put temporary chair?
We can put it, I mean, yeah,
Chair,
that's the
vice
title
chair.
right now, interim, right? Interim chair.
Interim
Mhm.
vice chair.
Whatever it is, yeah. Oh my goodness, we are on time, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we're like 3 minutes early. So let's go ahead and we'll take a break. We'll do the till 12:15. So everybody back in their seats at 12:15. If Mr. Stahl, you could stop the recording, that would be great.